of teachers from schools in the affected regions. And now the Teacher Service Commission says it will be moving non-local teachers to safer zones. We ask you tonight, is the TSC justified in withdrawing teachers from schools plagued by insecurity? Tell us what you think on Twitter through the hashtag The Big Question. Use the SMS number 22422. We'll be sampling your views and your feedback again shortly. In studio now, I have Omboko Milemba, the Emuhaya Member of Parliament and also Kupe Chair. Rashid Kasim is the Wajir East MP, and Amos Kaburu is an education expert. Thank you all for taking time for us this evening. I'll start with you, Rashid Kasim, because you come from Wajir East constituency, but this is not actually limited from what Kupe and others were saying, and from what we've seen to northeastern Wajir only. There's also the problem in Kerio Valley. But you are from Wajir, where last week 2 teachers were killed and a wife to one of them. Are you happy with what the Teacher Service Commission has announced today?
Thank you, Zen. And let me be able to say it clearly. And on the onset, be able to give condolences to the families of affected teachers. These teachers are coming from my constituency in a school called Karsa Private School, which is in my constituency. And those teachers lost their lives while serving Kenyans. And one of the teachers, his wife was equally butchered in the same place. But those are not the only teachers that have been affected. There was equally another teacher who was badly injured as well through a gunshot on his arms, and he is having undergoing treatment in Wajir. And I would like to say this is a very unfortunate and indeed a very unfortunate incident. Wajir has been relatively very peaceful over the years, particularly from attack from Al-Shabaab. But that incident of Wajir, particularly Wajir East, was very unfortunate. And
with what the TSC today has said, are you happy with what they have said? That now they're going to move these non-local teachers, because police have been saying it's non-local teachers that have been targeted. They are now going to move them to safer zones in cosmopolitan areas and leave the other areas, remote areas, to have locals teach the students.
Let me first say it very clearly. The issues of Al-Shabaab. Al-Shabaab is not only linked to non-locals. Al-Shabaab, armed militia who attempt to destroy the way Kenyans live and to destroy livelihood of the people of this Kenya and our lifestyle. So the issue of thinking that Al-Shabaab is only attacking non-locals is not here, neither there. It has been incidences of Al-Shabaab even meted against locals, particularly in Garissa and Wajir and even Mandera. So the issue of the thinking that Al-Shabaab only attack non-locals is not here, neither there.
Okay. I'll get Omboko's Milemba response on this.
One, again, I begin by sending my condolence and on behalf of Kupet and the union to the teachers and the families of the teachers who lost their lives. Yet again, for me, I think we went through this in, I think, 2015, when many more teachers were killed. And I attended one of the burial ceremonies at Buhungu Stadium. And
that was in Mandera?
That was in Mandera. But those are the environs, and now they have extended to Wajir. We are also having the same problems in Baragoi and Baringo and the Kerio Valley areas. So that time at Buhungu, I saw a pool of coffins, and we buried them. But what followed was that the teachers themselves tried to pull out, and they came here in Nairobi. They camped at our office, later on camped at the other offices for the unions. And later on, when we were unable to host them for a very long time, they ended up camping at the Teacher Service Commission. What went on was prolonged kind of demonstrations there, but the commission reacted by interdicting all those teachers. There were about 2,000 of them. And of the 2,000 teachers who were interdicted in 2015, some of them completely lost their jobs. Others are still struggling with their cases, and others are still in court. Like today, I saw the Teacher Service Commission correctly put it that some of them went to court. And now here we are again, and the teachers have been killed in those areas. Before I came in, I was talking to the teachers because I'm privileged to have the network that can get to them. And I think we need a long-lasting solution to this problem. And I would want to ask my colleague from Wajir to look at the most practical way that we can solve this. Because the truth is that the attack is on the local teacher, is the non-local teachers. And I've talked to them extensively. I don't want to go through the stories I went through in 2015, but the non-local teachers are targeted. Even the students themselves don't have respect for them. The students themselves don't like them. And they live there as though they are foreigners. So these are issues that really will have to come out very clearly.
But you're speaking about what happens everywhere, or an isolated incident or isolated incidents?
I'm talking about the northeastern part.
So what you're saying is the whole of northeastern Kenya, this is how teachers are?
Those regions, they are not treated well. And
based on research or based on what you've heard from teachers? Or?
Thorough research. In fact, in 2015, I did a paper. You remember I came to this studio with a paper, very well researched. I cannot trace it now, and that's why I don't want to go back to that research paper. But then let me wind up by saying that what we need as Kenyans, without this time doing the politics, because I noticed in 2015, there was a little bit of politicizing it so much, looking like this group want to win, or this one wants to lose. This time, I only want us to go that style. We need to get a real modus operandi on how we shall have the children in northeastern part of Kenya and other environs like Kerio Valley, having teachers teaching them, but at the same time, we protecting the lives of the non-local teachers who are in these areas. So I think what the TSC has done is a fair thing, but it's not by just slightly moving them out of the inside and then bring them to the.
All right, I'll ask a few questions about that, but first let me get his response, because you said about how teachers are treated in Northeastern.
Well, I think my honorable colleague may not be familiar with the issues in Northeastern, particularly in those regions which are harsh. The climate may be a bit too difficult, so people may not be familiar. For those who have not even gone to those areas, may be able to give a preconceived attitude toward those places. Let me be able to say clearly, education is key livelihood for people of Northern Kenya. The other livelihood which we had in the past, particularly livestock and others, due to climate change and a number of other things, may not be forthcoming to the future. But what we realize is that education is quite important, and for those who attain and eventually get jobs, will be able to support their families. So we, as that region, we are really concerned education, and we intend to improve education for that matter. On the issue of performance, and particularly teachers in that ASAL and semi-arid districts of Kenya, one thing we have realized, the number of non-local teachers are quite high. Particularly for Wajir County, in terms of primary, there's about 1,097 primary teachers. Nearly half of those are non-locals. In the other secondary schools, there are about 1,000, and nearly 70% are non-locals. So for me, in terms of non-local teachers in the region, and the significance is quite high. So for the matter of just saying we are going to withdraw teachers because of incidences here and there, may not be an appropriate action. One thing we feel is that anybody who attempts to be deterrent on level of education in that region will certainly be destroying the future of that region, and particularly those youth which we intend to nurture as good Kenyans. But let me be able to say clearly, those teachers, as far as incidences of unruliness of students are concerned, as my friend is suggesting, incidences of unruly students are everywhere. They're in Nairobi, they could be in Western Province, but those are isolated cases where teachers may be viewed differently. But let me be able to assure that teachers are our second parents, and we value them highly. And for anybody who thinks that teachers who are non-locals in Northern Kenya are meted with unruly behavior, is not there, neither there.
Amos, let me get Amos' response very briefly.
First of all, I want to join the two honorable members to pass my condolences to the families of the teachers who've lost their dear ones. Actually, nobody deserves to die while delivering services, particularly to the children of this country. Secondly, they are not just the children of this country. They are vulnerable. They are children who are marginalized. They are children who are learning under very, very difficult circumstances. And so the very fact that these teachers have given out their service, I have been to the larger northern Kenya. I've done there a lot of work. Fortunately or unfortunately, I've not had to live under very tough conditions as those teachers will be living through, because I may be going there with a 4x4, and so do not go through the kind of challenges that those teachers go through. So they are extremely a lot. I want to agree with Mheshimiwa that there is need for us to look for a long-term solution. But I think we need to look at it from 2 points. One, we need to deal with the issues that are urgent, but now bring in also the aspect of what is long-term. Because as we speak now, there are also teachers in that region who are not employed by the Teacher Service Commission. These are people who have been employed by private schools there, and they are also non-locals. And as Honorable Rashid is putting it, if you look at the contribution and the role the teachers from who are non-locals have made in the northern Kenya, it is so significant, because northern Kenya has got lots of challenges. But even with the little that they have been able to get, you cannot underestimate the role that the teachers who are non-locals have played. So it's very, very important that we are quite cautious of how we go about solving this issue, so that we're able to address issues that are urgent, but at the same time look at what could we do in the long term. Okay. What is happening right now, it looks kind of dealing a little bit with what is symptomatic in terms of saying that we can withdraw teachers who are non-locals. It may serve for a short term, but it doesn't serve for the long term, because what about these teachers who are in private schools who do not have an opportunity to be transferred to another place? So I think what is more urgent right now is to look at how can we deal with this security situation. And perhaps if there is more conversation around the leadership in the northern Kenya, because schools are very sensitive. I've said here, and I want to repeat, schools are very sensitive, and any form of instability introduced to a school, northern Kenya had the worst results last year.
I'll come to that, but first, you actually talked about what happened in 2015. Some of these teachers were interdicted. Again, this decision by TSC has something to do with the unions, which immediately called for these teachers to withdraw. Do you think that is right? Of course, there are those who say, and condolences to all these teachers that have lost their lives and their families, that ultimately the people who are being taught there in Kerio Valley, in northeastern Kenya, are Kenyan children. Is it right for them to suffer for what is not their doing?
Exactly.
Thank you. And that is where I was just before you stopped me, because I was looking for a real solution to this. The teachers who have even left northeastern and the environs and other parts of this country that we have in security, it's not necessarily even the instructions from the unions. You know, once 1-2 teachers are killed, they start running away. So there's a massive exodus.
But you play a role. I mean, by the unions going out and calling for them to leave.
I'll be coming to that later. So as we talk now, I can also give you the statistics. Mheshimiwa, about 300 teachers are already around Nairobi or the environment.
Have already left.
And you saw, in so doing, some of them, like I found it, they started coming out immediately, even before my general secretary did the statement towards this. But you see, once teachers start getting killed in a place, what would be the immediate solution, the sporadic solution, the way my colleague has put it? The first immediate sporadic solution is for them to evacuate the teachers, because there's danger, so that we don't lose another soul. Because I don't know if we can sit here and estimate how many more people should die before we take action.
Okay.
Because if it's a matter of dying, so many of them have died and now they are continuously dying. So the first immediate thing is to withdraw the teachers.
Okay.
Then we immediately withdraw the teachers, then you start fixing the security issues. I'm happy Matiang'i today was in the so-called the Death Valley. But you see, there was an effort by the local leaders there to say, hey, you close schools. Because we don't know if you have killed 4 today, you will kill how many tomorrow.
Okay.
So then when Matiang'i goes there, or our agents for security go there, now they fix security. And the situation may normalize, and then we talk about, hey, can we go back?
All right, you want a lasting solution?
The issue of withdrawal is the immediate solution. But let me talk about the long-term solution.
I will. You will talk about the long-term solution. But now we're talking about what TSC has now done. You're saying you support it. He's talking about Wajir, for example, giving an example of the number of teachers, half of them being non-local teachers, who most of them are now going to be moved to safer zones. Definitely, there'll be a problem with learning in that area. And how is that handled?
Yeah, I was trying to navigate that, and we are also trying to navigate that. I would also wish my colleagues to navigate that, because we really need a solution towards that. One of the solutions we need to put in place is that which my colleague is not agreeing with, and I want to allow him, if at all it's the non-local teachers who are suffering this fate, we need to train more people who are local in that area. You know, the other time when we were talking about the delocalization policy by the Teacher Service Commission, you notice that there are areas it can't work. It's again it is the duty of the community to protect teachers. Since time immemorial, during the colonial period, it was the same. Remember, people were taught by Europeans. And it was the local communities that protected the Europeans, who were the first teachers, and then moving on and moving on. So again, would plead with the local communities in these areas to be the first people protecting the teachers. For instance, the Teacher Service Commission, within its mandate, did delocalize teachers. We are expecting that the teachers who went in different areas of the country should get the protection of the communities around there. And therefore, as I stop, so that I give you a chance also, it will also, I'll also be looking upon you and the leadership of that particular place to help in securing our teachers.
Hussein, I think it's not fair to play politics with the lives of our children and the future generation. As far as we are concerned, CUPET and NAT, as well as TSC, seem to be playing.
Just let me finish.
Let me
I'm
finish.
Not in politics. I really want a good solution.
Let me finish. So I think let's be devoid of politics, but be able to come up with a lasting solution.
Yeah.
And if you clearly look at what we have suggested, and we are going to suggest a very robust and a very clear suggestions. It's we who knows where our shoe pinches, and it's we who can be able to provide solutions. Some of the solutions we are going to suggest is one, there should be a synergy between security and education, in the sense that the government, both functions are still national functions, and there should be a synergy in terms of providing security to those centers. If you look at the scenario we have in now, nearly all the centers, particularly wherever the center happened, there's no security apparatus. There's no police force. There's no administration police.
Which leads me to this question.
No, let me tell you.
You'll finish. Which leads me to this question. I mean, it's good that you're now coming up with solutions, but would you blame the teachers' unions? And would you blame the teachers? Just let me finish. Would you blame the teachers' unions and the teachers, some of whom have lost their lives? We've seen, definitely, and even the police say it's non-locals being targeted. Not now. It happened in 2015. There have been sporadic attacks, such-like attacks happening. There was no solution from local leaders. Immediately it is done, you don't talk about it. You wait for the next attack, you don't talk about it. Until now, when you're saying you bring solutions. So would you blame them for taking the decision or actions they're taking?
One thing is we don't need to be reactionary. We need to be a bit proactive, and we don't need to dwell and be able to, when there are incidences, only to bring very drastic actions. I think after the last incident and now, which is about 2 years or so, they should have been a remarkable steps to make sure that there's a robust solutions for this thing to come. Some of the things he has suggested is that we need to train locals. But even the locals, we had a big of challenges. If you look at the performance of the schools, particularly in the last year and the previous other years, we didn't get even the pass mark of each one of them was very low, was dismal in terms of performance. So some of them may not even be likely get the grades to go to and pursue a teacher's college. These are issues we really have. And one thing we will able to suggest is that we train locals, whether they have a D or D+, so that they still have a P3 or P2 or whatever levels they have, and they can be able to progress over the years. And some of the suggestions we will be able to put is that these teachers should equally be trained on school basis. When the schools are closed, they can still be trained, so that gradually we can be able to have number of teachers who are locals. That's one. One other thing we have also realized is most of the local teachers get employment in that place, in the regions we were in the asset, because they are the ones who are qualified. They can be able to access the grades that are required for them to get. So one thing that has been said is that after 5 years, they move out. But one thing we realize that they use incidences like this. However unfortunate it is, to make it a solution for them to leave the respective stations which they have been employed to 6 transfers which they have been yearning for over the years. And this is not a solution.
Okay.
The solution
I can make some statement about that because it's correct.
Yeah, the solution is there should be a synergy. KPRs, one thing we have already done, I'm the one who collected the bodies of those 2 deceased teachers from the ground. I was there very early in the morning. One thing is the attack was going on for nearly 1.5 hours. 1.5 hours they could not access the houses where the teachers were living. If they were indeed administrative police who could even fire on the air, and even police reserves which are positioned in various centers, then we could have rescued those teachers. So the issue is there should be a synergy between administration and security and education, because both are functions which are national functions, and so that we can have a solution. Movement of teachers which are reactionary, which happen when incidences happen, may not be a solution
to this problem. Okay, finally, I'll give the final words and remarks to Amos.
I think it's a little bit too harsh to label that the local community has not been very supportive on this aspect. Because let's not forget that Kenya is at war with Somalia, and all our effort is in Somalia. So if the very military itself cannot solve this issue overnight, I think that we placing too much blame on the local community, because they are trying in their level best, in their little way possible, to try and address this issue. For a fact, what Northern Kenya requires is a serious Marshall Plan around reorganizing education. And you've got a lot of examples. You just need to look at our neighbors in Uganda. President Museveni put what he even called the Ministry for Karamojong Affairs. And he put in significant resources, serious money, to try and revamp how life was looking at in northern Uganda, or which is northeastern Uganda. This is what we equally need for northeastern Kenya. The model of primary schools being set up everywhere in northern Kenya, it is not going to work. You have to be thinking of small schools that can be feeder schools for you to be able to accommodate larger schools which are boarding in nature, so that you are able to optimize these resources as they are. Because it's not going to work that in every place where there are 200 people, where there are 300 people, you are putting up a school. So what Northern Kenya requires is a serious Marshall Plan that is going to relook at the whole aspect of education. And I really want to laud the effort that is being done by the local leaders, particularly the members of parliament like Honorable Rashidi, who are seriously sitting down to ask themselves that the resources in northeastern Kenya were purely livelihood, were purely livestock, which so far they are no longer there. So they have to seriously invest in education. And for this to be realized, you require significant resources. So we have to do everything that is possible for us to support this region, because every Kenyan child deserves to have some quality education. And as we speak now, northeastern Kenya is registering the worst results in the country. So even when this stability comes back, as he put it, there are serious issues that people look for an opportunity. Why is it that when is it that the next moment that I'm going to leave this place and such? So we must be able to find long-lasting solutions that gives these children an equal footing for them to compete like any other Kenyan.
All right, we'll have to leave it at that because of time, but thank you so much for making time for us tonight. Honorable Omboko Milemba, who's the Kupet Chair and also a Muhaya Member of Parliament, his counterpart, Rashid Qasim, and of course Amos Kaburu is an education expert. Keep talking to us. The hashtag is the big question on Twitter. You can text us on 22422. Jomo Gigi on 22422 says, Jomo Gigi from Mukurweini. He says a big yes supporting what TSC is doing. Life is paramount and you cannot teach under duress, yet you expect it to deliver. It is to the best interest of all to let the locals handle the security issues. However, he says, this will balkanize the education sector, which is not healthy. Keep talking to us. We'll look at your feedback at the end of this show. We're taking a short break now.